Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Family Life, the Health and Family Life Education, the Parenting Edition. We are happy that you're joining us today. This is about the 7th edition episode, I think. I am Tricia Sims, the Episcopal Delegate for the Family Life Commission, and we are happy that you're joining with us today. Remember to like, share, and comment so that others will know that this conversation is happening. Health and Family Life Education, the Parenting Edition. Welcome to Alicia Hoyt, clinical psychologist, who is joining us in this conversation. Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you, Tricia. Again, welcome. Nice to be here with you.
Good. So we are so happy that you are joining with us. We are so happy that you are joining with us today as we continue our journey with the Health and Family Life Education, the Parenting Edition. Now remember, we are with the age group 11 to 14-year-olds. So before we go into there, I just want to remind us that our children don't belong to us. Do you know that? Our children don't belong to us. They belong to God, because God is the one who placed them there in the first place. God gives his children earthly parents because he wants them to be able to feel his love. You see how Archbishop Jason's mother is touching his hand there. And look at the smile on their faces, to feel his love through their bodies and to see his face in your eyes. Look at their eyes, even though they're not looking at each other face to face. You could tell in that body language there that there's that feeling of love and seeing of love. Maybe we can look at the next picture as well. So that's the first one. So our children are gifts to us, and we are to give them back as gifts to God. Now, in this second photo here, we look at the Panton family, and we have some people who are priests, we have some people who are bishops, we have some people who are religious, and we have some married people. We also have some single people here. So, and their mother raised them. Their father died in his 30s. So their mother raised them by herself. And again, our children are gifts. They came from God through us, through our bodies, and we given them back to God to be, as earthly parents, they feel his love and experience God's love through us. And then we have that third picture there, just reminding us. And if we need to be sure, in the catechism it says, Christian mothers and fathers are meant to be the face of God to our children. That's a paraphrasing of the catechism 239. So parents, our children don't belong to us, they belong to God. In our faces, in our bodies, they experience God's love. So don't be afraid, to show love to your children. Alicia, is there anything you'd like to share this time?
I was just enjoying the pictures and just really being thankful myself and wondering, how did we think we could do this parenting without the Lord and without prayer? And if it's his children, then we can go back to him when they're giving us trouble, or when we don't know what to do, or when we're confused or overwhelmed. And it really helps keep things in perspective to understand that we are part of a plan for these children's lives, and we can call on God for help.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. So at this point, we'll do a little recap of what we did last week. Last week, we talked about, we are with that age group, 11 to 14. And we started off the conversation maybe 2 weeks ago talking about educating the young person about the basic biology of sex and reproduction. And then we went into tips to talking about our sons and daughters. Remember those tips, parents? And then we went into initiating basic discussions about identity. We went into that last week, and how the young person can find his or her place in the world. We went into attraction, sexual attraction. Now, remember that definition for attraction, Alicia? What's that definition again?
Yes. That attraction reminds us that we are not made for ourselves. We are being drawn to the other, and we are called to desire the goodness of the other. So it reminds us that we're not insular. Yeah. We're made for connection.
You're made for
Yeah.
connection. And I like that, that when you feel attracted to somebody, what you can do. We went through some of that last week. So this week now, we're going to be talking about learning how to build friendships with members of the opposite sex. We talked about that a little last week,
Yeah.
but we're going to
Yeah.
go a little more in depth in that. And then we're going to talk about how old should my child be before starting to date. Now, I know 11 to 14-year-old parents ain't want to hear about dating, but it's something we had to talk about. So, Alicia, I want to welcome you now for us to continue where we started last week.
We keep talking about this age group, remember 11 to 14. Before they entered this age group, they really were just more interested in their same-sex friends. Girls thought boys were gross and boys thought girls were disgusting. And well, that's typically what would happen. And as they enter in 11 to 14 and puberty kicks in and that sexual maturation begins to take place, there's new interest, there's new curiosity. And we talked about a lot of feelings that our children are having, physical changes as well as emotional. And our culture really seems to be pushing our children to jump straight into sexualization and the romantic relationship. You hear children talking about boyfriend. You hear families and parents asking their children if they have a boyfriend, if they have a girlfriend. And we jump clean over this very important apprenticeship stage, this very important stage where friendships. You see, because if you're going to eventually get married, especially, it has to be based on a friendship, not so? The person that you spend your life with has to be somebody that you could talk to and relate with. And so, what we really want to do is resist the tide of TV and social media and culture that pushes our children into romanticizing their relationships and allow them a space to build friendships and to simply connect with people of the opposite sex simply as a beautiful person. Yeah. And so it says here that puberty is a time of life when the young person should be encouraged to apply the same rules of friendships with members of the opposite sex and really avoid that pull. We want to encourage hanging out in groups. There's an age where you're driving your children everywhere. They're too young to go on their own and they can't drive. So we're taking them everywhere. And this is an age where our home could be a safe space for children and their friends to hang out. And we want to invite now the boys and girls to hang out together, whether it's youth group or after sports practice or pan practice, whatever it is. And you provide a safe space because guys and girls have different ways of relating, different ways of getting along. And we want to encourage them to discover um, how guys relate and how girls relate with each other. Yeah, and so we provide those kind of same spaces to understand. Can you imagine a guy who grew up, eventually got married, and never hung out with girls as friends? He wouldn't understand his wife, and vice versa. So we provide spaces for our children to learn each other. Yeah.
I'm happy that you share that, Alicia, because I think sometimes, you wonder about friendships. Is friendships worth it? It requires so much. And for
Yeah.
somebody to be your friend, to be considered a friend, you have to let down your guard. And many times, we don't want to let down our guard too early. In friendships, you don't want to let down your guard. So, and especially in this time when our friend is really the phone or the computer or the laptop, it's really difficult to, I think for parents now to help their children in terms of friendship, and especially too with academics taking priority at this time. It's very difficult, I think, as parents to allow that space.
Yeah.
And as a
Yeah.
mother of children in a who go to an all-male school, sometimes I wonder, well, how can I expose them to young ladies so that they would, be able to build those friendships. And I think that's a concern for some parents as well. So, many of the young men who go to all-male schools or even young women, their friends are on are the games or is the phone. How can we talk about that, especially in this time?
And that is where, a parent, being a parent is an automatic thing. You make a child and you get a label and you know what to do. It's really a learning process for us. And as we enter this stage, it's really a period of adjustment where we as parents are adjusting. If you've been a very strict disciplinarian before, it's understanding that we need to give this child room to grow. So it's a kind of controlled, supervised space. If they want to be on the phone talking to their friends, well, it has to be maybe certain times or certain places in the house, not late at night in your room or whatever. So we provide spaces. If they're in all male or all female schools, you may want to provide spaces such as whether it's confirmation class, youth group, extracurricular activities where they have a chance to mix with children of the opposite sex, so that you help provide spaces in which they can interact with other youth. And then you have plenty conversation to listen to. You might be going with them to the mall when they want to go with their friends, 11 to 14. Maybe you're hanging out in the mall while they're, I don't know what these children be doing in the mall, parading up and down through the mall, just walking and talking and seeing each other. And so it's a letting go of the reins, so that they can learn and grow and meet and socialize and experience. You still have whatever controls in place in terms of where they go and who they're spending time with, and you should know and so on. But we have to give them room, to grow and to meet each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, to grow and to meet each other. Now, as I said, for me, especially now when I know I'm not the only parent in this role,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in our time it was mall time, where we could go to the mall. But now I think so much time is spent on the phone. I think we need to, provide some guidelines as to, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of conversations or things we do on the phone, because um, emojis are the connection now, but emojis,
Don't
sometimes
cut it.
it
Yeah.
don't really count for building that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that we need to, continuously talk about in terms of friendships, building friendships. Would you
You
like
know,
to?
I keep talking about the need to breathe, and it sounds like a joke, and I say it with a smile, but it calms us down when we become anxious about what is going on and what is my child seeing and what they're doing, and we want to react rather than respond, right? And when I can calm myself back down and get back into my rational brain, I can think things through rather than rushing in. How many times you open the child bedroom door to talk to them about something? You might ask them if they want something to eat or whatever, and depending on, you see them on the phone and you fly into a rage because you don't know what they're doing on the phone and you forget the conversation. um, you know, 11 to 14, provide whatever internet security measures you know. Maybe you have filters, maybe you have ways of managing what's happening in their conversations online, but we can't control everything. And so it has to be where you are guiding your child about some of the dangers that you would be concerned about for them. Maybe you're sharing with them what you'd like to see for them in their friendships. Maybe you're making room for them to come and tell you, Mommy, you know what Joshua just say. You know, so there's room for you to hear too if you've built that relationship. You realize everything we talk in Trisha is building relationship.
It is. It
That's what
is.
it is. Right? So if I'm the kind of parent who doesn't fly off the handle in rage or anxiety or disgust, soon as my child start to talk, then I'll have a relationship where this child will come and tell me things. And I can listen, or I can ask a question. So what did you do? So what did you say? So what did you think about that? And let this child develop their understanding of who they are in relationship and who they want to be in a friendship. And in that gentle guidance and conversation, you will hear your child begin to repeat things that you've said or that you've suggested to them. Yeah, but we also need to leave room for those mistakes in judgment. Yeah.
Yes, I think so many times as parents, we forget our days.
Yeah.
Or we parent out of fear,
Yeah.
remembering our days and saying, not my child, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and forgetting that we're not doing this parenting thing alone. God is
No.
with us and guiding us. I remember my mother when I was a teenager. If you talk to my mother, I was a quiet rebel. I used to
Trouble.
give trouble,
Mm-hmm.
but quietly and only to my
Mm-hmm.
mother. I would rebel with her. So I think, really helping parents to remember your own days. My mother
Mhm.
often reminds me, go don't make sheep, you know. The
Apple
apple,
don't fall far. Let me call it a mango. Yes.
the mango don't fall far from
Don't
the
fall far from the tree. Yes.
but thank God I have come to my senses. Okay. um, so we get to that question. We midway in the program now. We
Yeah,
have 15 more minutes. And we come to that question. And remember, parents, this is the book that is guiding our conversation. The
yes.
Beyond the Birds and the Bees by Greg and Lisa Popchak, a wonderful resource for parents of all ages of children. Contact us to get to purchase your copy. Now, there's this question that is burning on children's minds, and also parents don't want to hear this question at all. How old should my child be before starting to date? Now we're talking about this in the 11 to 14-year-old category. Shed some light for us, Alicia.
When we talk about dating, and I don't think the pop chats actually define what they mean, but I think we understand dating as maybe spending time exclusively with the one person that you like or that you have a crush on, and more of a one-on-one relationship with this person. Um, Typically, the person of the opposite sex is more generally the experience, but somebody that you like. Um, and it comes back to pretty much the same thing of when should my child be dating? When my child has a good understanding of how to treat a person as a person, right? When my child has a good understanding of friendship, platonic friendship. When I understand how it is to, relate to somebody that I want what's best for them. I'm interested in them and their well-being. I'm willing to listen to their story, and the person is willing to listen to mine, so that this is somebody that I feel comfortable with, who I can trust to do what's best for me. So, friends first. And when I have a sense that I have a child who understands that and how to do that, then maybe I could journey with them in terms of spending time with someone that I'm attracted to. Yeah. But it really ought to begin there. I want to encourage my child to understand um, the need for limits and boundaries. You're still quite young. So where you go, who you go with, how long you're staying, how you're getting there and back, all as my business as parent. That's my business. Yeah. So if this child is able to come to me and we can have a conversation about the who, what, when, and where, and we agree on it, then that child may be able to handle spending time with this person that they like, and dating as we understand it. Um, and that's one of the areas I think when we've established that kind of honesty between us, and I see that you have the maturity to be responsible in those areas, maybe we can talk about you spending time in smaller groups or if it's one on one. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
just before you
yes.
continue there, Alicia, I don't want it to be said that the Family Life Commission and Alicia Hoyt is encouraging 11 to 14-year-olds to date. That's not our intention, but
No.
it's a conversation that will come up in your house and you can initiate. So you are initiating the conversation. Your children may be
Mhm.
asking you these questions and we are just providing some guidelines. We are not saying
Not
11 to
advocating dating at this
14-year-olds
age. No.
should be going out on a date. We are providing the guidelines for you to
Mhm.
listen and for you to have that conversation. You can
Mhm.
continue now, Alicia.
Sure, you're correct in the path there. Um, the text talks about encouraging modesty in thought, action, and dress. So it's ongoing conversation and observation of my child, whether my child grasps and understands these concepts. And that might take them the whole 11 to 14. So, yes, no date may very well happen at that age. Because I need to be sure my child understands um, modesty is really about being sensitive to my environment and sensitive to the other person. Do I want to behave in a way that excites or turns off the other person? Do I want to behave in a way that invites ridicule? So I'm over pious. Maybe I would love to put my children in a potato sack and keep them home, you know. But at the same time, I don't want you out the road in a bikini. So does my child understand the need for moderation in dress, in action, in thought? Does my child understand that I don't look at this other person and simply in terms of their body or with lustful thoughts? Um, so I'm working with my child in developing a sense of modesty and moderation in their thoughts and in their actions and in their behavior. I'm teaching my child about listening and kindness to the other person. So it's the same thing. Does my this person that you have a crush on, what do you know about them? What do they like? Do you listen to their story when they come talking during the course of the day? Or you just going off on he cute and he cute? You know? And so I'm inviting my child to get to know people rather than being consumed with these romantic attractions and feelings.
I'm glad that you share that in terms of modesty, because
Mm-hmm.
this is a very sensitive topic for parents.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, thank God I have boy children. When parents go to buy clothes now, especially
Mm.
mothers buying for daughters, all that is available are these crop
Very
tops.
often. Mm-hmm.
You just see in these, we used to call it navel breakers, right?
Yeah.
And rompers, well, rompers come back now. Um, but I think it's even a challenge for parents when they're purchasing clothes for children, especially girls. What do I wear without being a prude? Without being prudish. But
Mm-hmm.
what is nice and attractive, but is not degrading to the child, because this is still a child before us. Would you like
Mm-hmm.
to comment a little bit on that there, Alicia?
It keeps coming back to why the parent is the best person to educate and advise around these issues, because you're going to be using many different little life experiences to kind of reinforce a point. Maybe I see someone on the street who's attractively dressed, and maybe I describe, look how beautiful she can look and attractive, and she looks her age while managing to cover her body, you know? Maybe we talk about some of these stars and pop stars who prefer more of the nudity in their look. And what do you think about that? And is that something that you would want to do? And so there's conversation in different situations as they arise. And I communicate what I think about modest dress and that a woman can be beautiful without being on display. Maybe when we go shopping for clothes, we talk about what you like about this stuff. Why do you want your stomach outside? Is it simply because everybody's doing it? Sometimes, we talk, Trisha, about experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I gave the story of one mother who told me that she allowed the child to buy the tight jeans. And when the girl went out, she was like, Mommy, everybody was looking at me and I'm not comfortable with that kind of attention. And she chose not to wear that again. Sometimes we can let our children realize for themselves, that's not where I want to go. But it's ongoing conversation about what they like and what they're interested in, and us communicating that need for moderation. And it's celebrating when they find styles that are modest but attractive and cool. Yeah. And that sensitivity is what we want to grow in our kids.
I'm happy that you share that part about children experiencing some things, because, many times as parents, we really do want to shield them from a lot of things and so on.
Yeah.
And that's our responsibility
That's
to,
our
to protect
responsibility.
them, but we also
Mhm.
have to allow them to be as well. And especially during this age and stage when they're going through that level of
Yeah.
development, independence as well. And I remember from my own experience, I wasn't between 11 to 14 then, I was much older. And I remember playing mass in my bikini and I going down the road and I in the band and I enjoying myself. And when I came out of the band, I remember feeling so exposed. And again, people were kind of these drunk men suiting and feeling like they wanted to
Mhm.
grab me and so on. And I remember feeling I am putting myself at risk. I was much older then. And
Mhm.
I said, I don't want to put myself at risk. That was a personal choice that I made. And so I feel I could dress nice. I think I dress nice, but I don't have to show off everything. You could show off a little something, but you don't have to show off everything. And I think that's where the modesty and prudishness, we have to help our children to discern what is appropriate at different times. I see you have a questioning look on your face.
No, I'm listening to you, and there's an underlying theme, 11 to 14, the apprenticeship years. I really love the title. And apprenticeship means journeying along with. because I am continually listening to my child's experiences and asking them, so what did you notice? So what did you learn? So how did you feel? Because I want them to kind of come to conclusion based on their experience. And I will share with them what the church teaches, what we know to be true, what God wants of you. And I share that truth, not as a lecture and here's what you must do, but as the context and the perspective I'd like them to know. But it's with experience and with time and those little conversations over time that they come to see what you mean. Yeah. And when you are a receptive, open, supportive person, they want to understand what you're talking about. We probably don't feel that way 11 to 14, but they do. And they come to it of themselves. Yeah, we put the outer boundaries, but we leave room in there for them to question and ask and discuss with us. Yeah,
Yes, I like that. Now we only have about 3 more minutes, and we have
amazing.
talked a lot about girls, but I think we also have to talk about boys or young men in terms of what they see, and how they respond to what they see as well. Many times I may hear, she's a nice girl. Yes, so what you like about her?
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about,
yeah,
do you know where she lives? Do you know what's her name? Do you know what
yeah,
are some things that she
yeah.
likes? Um, so that too, we're helping our young men not just to be stimulated only by their eyes, but also going a little deeper in terms of getting to know members of the opposite sex and so on. So I think that's something that we also need to talk about, not just women, but also
Mhm,
young
mhm.
men's response as well. Do you want to
Yeah.
add anything there?
Well, pretty much everything we're talking about, relates to both boys and girls in terms of being available for them to come tell you. And boys want to talk, eh? It's if we can be quiet long enough for them to say what's going on. Boys want to talk. And you listen and you ask the same questions. And you respect their experiences. Remember, we talked about not teasing them about crushes. Because when they like somebody, it's a chance for them to discover what attracts them. What do
Mhm.
you like about the other person? What's interesting to you? And who do you want to be in the relationship as well? And then remember, we want to invite our kids to have well-rounded experiences. So they meet um, boys and girls of all ages, of not all ages, but in all different scenarios, and get to know what the opposite sex is like. Yeah. Um, but that's the key thing is making room for the conversation and sharing what you understand to be right and good and true and what you want for them, rather than just lecturing, but sharing it with them, and giving reason why when you can. And we have to live it. Yeah, we have to live what we're asking of them.
And sometimes it's not easy to live it, but
It's
we have to
none
keep.
of it is easy.
Yes, we have to keep trying. I'm happy. I think a common theme I'm hearing here is we have to listen. We have
Yes,
to
and be
listen
available. Yeah,
and being available,
yeah,
and engaging in the conversation. What do you see? Becoming curious,
yeah,
what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What do you like? What do you don't like? Um, and this is for both young men and for
yes,
young women, even though we would have spent a lot of time with the
yeah.
young ladies. Now, Alicia, it's now our time is up, and we really want to
I'm in
thank you.
denial.
Thank you for. We only got into 2 points, I think. There, in
We cover them. Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Um, but I would really want to thank you for your presence and sharing with us over the last few weeks, and hopefully we'll continue. Viewers, we thank you for viewing. Remember to like, share, comment, and we would like to hear from you. Earlier this week, we got a really um, encouraging comment from a parent just saying that, she was sitting down with her son and they were looking at it together and sharing experiences. And, that was very encouraging. So if you have any experiences that you would like to share with us, remember to leave it, like, share, comment. Remember, this book, Beyond the Birds and the Bees by Greg and Lisa Popchak, is our resource as we
Yes.
continue on this journey. We thank you for viewing and for sharing in the comment section, and we look forward to you next week journeying with us. I am Tricia Sims, the Episcopal Delegate for the Family Life Commission. Thank you very much, Alicia Hoyt, clinical psychologist, and God bless all of you. Remember, those children belong to God. They are us on loan as gift, and let's treat them as gift. Thank you and God bless you.
God bless. Bye bye.